The surging prices of gas, food, and rent have spiked inflation to a 41-year high. As the rising costs push us closer to a recession, is there an end in sight? Tonight, in a special report, our Jamison Hicksonbaugh spoke with economists to find out how it got to this point and what it's going to take for inflation to cool off.
For truck driver Kenneth Fuselier, the prices at the pump have become problematic.
I can't fuel up at a Pilot or Flying J. It's too much. You know, it's over $6 a gallon.
As the owner and operator of Keenan Advantage Group, the record high cost of gasoline is cutting in to his profits.
I just hope they do something about the fuel prices because it's going to run a lot of people out of the trucking business.
Besides fuel prices literally draining many people's bank accounts, inflation is spiking the prices on just about everything. But how much more are you actually paying?
For a lot of people, you just haven't seen price change like this in your lifetime.
Steve Reed is an economist with the Consumer Price Index, which determines how much people are paying for goods and services.
We are collecting thousands of prices, about 80,000 prices a month, in about 75 areas across the country.
The most recent numbers are staggering. All items are up 9.1% compared to last year, the highest it has been since 1981. Gasoline is up by 60%, while food prices have increased by 12.2%.
It's really across almost all categories, with very few exceptions, that we see, indexes rising, and in most cases, pretty substantially.
So how did we get to this point?
We just experienced, unfortunately, a confluence of several events that just converged to create this outcome.
According to economics professor Dr. Ken Louie, the pandemic has caused prices to soar.
As we gradually recovered from the pandemic, consumer spending rapidly recovered as well. So with strong consumer demand, that puts pressure on prices.
The war in Ukraine also adding to inflation.
Once the war started, that certainly exacerbated things because it disrupted the global oil market, so energy was affected, as well as the world food markets because grain is such an important export from Ukraine.
As the Federal Reserve increases interest rates to stabilize prices, the threat of a recession is on the horizon.
So I think eventually what people are worried about, and we've seen this in the past, is that inflation won't really dissipate until there's a recession to bring it down. And recessions do tend to put downward pressure on prices.
So is there an end in sight?
It's a little bit too early to tell. Perhaps in the next few months, we'll start to see how slow the economy, how much slower things will get. And then based on that, we can perhaps estimate.
The only thing I'll say is to keep an eye on the energy prices. For the overall inflation to come down, we're going to have to stop seeing such extraordinary pressure from energy.
Fuselier says that can't happen soon enough.
Already they got an 800,000 shortage on drivers. It's going to be a lot more than that if they don't do something with the fuel prices.
So Emily, just to kind of recap everything, kind of the big numbers that came out of this, all across the board, everything is up 9.1%. That's a lot more than what people were paying just last June. And then as far as gas prices go, they have been kind of coming down a little bit over the past 2 weeks or so, but they're still up 60% more than what they were last year. So people are just paying a lot more this year. And a lot of people, as far as that end in sight, as you heard them say, it's kind of tough to tell right now. But in order for any of this to happen, the driving force behind a lot of the inflation is those high gas prices. Yeah. So those have to start coming down before we see any substantial change.
Okay, well, hopefully they'll start going down quicker, sooner.
That's what everybody's hoping for.
60%, that's an awful lot.
It's a lot.
And the feds are expected to make another move as far as interest rates. Right?
They are. In the coming days, in the week or two, they are supposed to do that once again because they're trying to stabilize those rates. But in order to do that, they have to raise those rates. I know that they have come down a little bit. I think they're currently around 5%. But, they're probably going to have to raise them once again. Yeah. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens.
Yeah, not good news if you're looking to buy a car or a home either.
It just makes it that much more difficult.
A tough time for everybody. Thanks for those reports, Jamison.
Absolutely, Emily. Thank you.